Hello, hello. Let's get this stuff to get off the screen. All right. Another live chat. As always, wherever you're joining from, let me know in the comments. Leave your name and city, location, country, wherever you're joining from. Today is live chat number 42. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, whether you're watching this live or watching it as a replay, this is 42 live chats, monthly live chats. And I didn't even realize until I actually looked back that I had a bunch of live chats that I did even before I started with the very first monthly live chat. So if you are here for the first time, I highly encourage you to go and take a look at the YouTube playlist. It's a podcast. It shows a list of all of the live chats, including some random sporadic ones that I've done to discuss various things that have come up, and watch them and see what you can get out of it. And as always, there's a feedback form if you want to send something personal, a personal question or personal feedback or comment or story you want to share with me, but also the comments. You can leave something in the comments, and whenever I get a chance, I will reply to you there. So for those of you joining, first time, replay, whatever it is, I'm Magna Gopal. This is my monthly Empowered with Magna live chat. The purpose of this live chat is to address various things that I have encountered in my life. That includes dance, that includes coaching, that includes speaking, that includes personal relationships, friendships, everything. Why? Why do I do this? Because I feel that there are lessons to be learned in everyone's experience, right? And we're not all there or desiring to share all of our personal experiences. For me, as a coach, this is a big part of what I do, is to extract those lessons from life, understand what my own clients are dealing with, what my students are dealing with, and then address those things and bring them to the forefront for everyone, because you never know where you can get that lesson. You never know who else is thinking about it. Oftentimes when we're struggling with a problem, we feel we're alone, and we are not. We're humans, and we relate on many levels, and we also don't relate on many levels, which we'll be talking about today. Mark Anthony in the house, Budapest in the house. I have a very funny story with Mark when I first met him. His name is Mark Anthony, but not Mark Anthony, M-A-R-C Anthony, the singer, which I realized later. I remember going to an event and everyone was saying, oh, Mark Anthony's going to be here. This was back in Toronto, my salsa days. And I, in my head, did not even, for some reason, put two and two together and say, oh, this is Mark Anthony, the dancer. I was thinking, oh, because I would always call him Mark. So everyone's like, oh, Mark Anthony's going to be there. Mark Anthony's going to be there. So I'm thinking the singer is going to be at this event, at this social event. And I show up excited to meet Mark Anthony. I get to the event, a lot of people there already. And then someone's like, oh, he's here. And I'm like, where? Oh, maybe he's in some VIP section. No, he's up there dancing. I'm like, holy crap, he dances? Oh my God, I might not just meet him, but I'm going to get a chance to dance with him too. And sure enough, I, mosey around the dance floor and look over there, and I'm looking for Mark Anthony, the singer, and I see Mark Anthony, my friend, the dancer. And biggest disappointment, but he is also not at all a disappointment in my life. One of the greatest people that I've had a chance to meet, that I've developed a friendship with. We've had lots of adventures around the world as well. So that's a little tiny segue story. So again, wherever you're joining from, leave me a comment, let me know so I can give you a shout out from this live chat, number 42. So today, the topic is how to improve our dance experience, right? And that involves not just our dance experience as dance partners, but also our dance experience within this community. Now, I've addressed this topic before. I actually have a list. There was bad leads. That was one entire live chat dedicated to that, 2019. That's in the playlist. Bad follows, how to improve connection, how good are you really, challenging the lead and follow dynamic, what should we be teaching, creating a safe space, effective communication, tons of topics that have just specifically on those topics. And these live chats, if you've been here before, you know these are like 60 to 90 minutes long, sometimes a little bit longer. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because there's a lot to say. And even though 60 to 90 minutes never really covers the entire breadth of the actual topic. So those are available to you if you want to kind of go back into any of those previous live chats. Wade in the house, hi from Queens. Coffee break. Myrtle from France, or is it Michelle? I don't know which one's the first name, but bonjour, or yeah, bonjour. Yeah, that's all day. I was going to say bonsoir, but that's evening. Actually, it's evening for you, so bonsoir. So why are we talking about this topic again, right? It's always worth revisiting, because this dance, salsa dancing, is complex in more ways than one. It's one of those dances that takes a very long time to feel really skilled at. And even then, your skill level, whatever it is comparative to what else is out there, what's beyond your own community. And my approach to this dance over the years has changed. In itself, it has changed. Why? Because I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning about the dance, about the technique, about mindset, about connection, about my human beings, and communication. And so my approach has changed. And so I think it's worth revisiting this. Now, I do want to be really clear. Even though many of the things that I'm going to be discussing and sharing with you today in terms of technique and mindsets can be applied to other dances, my focus today is on salsa dancing, social dancing, and our salsa dancing community, and how to improve our experience here. Okay. I am not familiar with the other dances the way I am with salsa, and I'm going to tell you that in dance math. And I also want to further narrow the scope of today's live chat, that I'm going to be talking about the dance connection and the community of well-intentioned dancers. Okay, I really need to be clear on that. Well-intended dancers. Okay, what does that mean? People who don't actually mean to cause harm, even if they do. Okay, they might mess up, but they're doing their best with what they know, and there's no malintent behind anything that they do. Right? That's who I'm referring to for today's live chat. If something or someone falls out of this category, that is for another topic, another live chat, another discussion. That's not who I'm referring to today. So let's be clear on that before we get started. Now, with this dance, I was like, why, who am I to speak on it? All right, who am I to speak about this? Well, first, I've been dancing for 25 years. That's more than half of my life. And I did some basic dance math, okay? And my dance math is conservative, and at the end, I'm going to even make the final conclusions even more conservative. But let's say we have 5-minute songs. And I'm curious, okay? When I do this dance math, I'm curious about what you think your numbers might be. And I want you to be conservative, like not conservative. I want you to actually try and include everything in there, okay? So a song typically is 5 minutes. So in 1 hour, we have 12 songs, 60 minutes. I would usually go dancing 6 to 7 hours a night, but let's take a conservative estimate also for math numbers, okay? 5 hours of dancing. So 5 hours times the 60 dances, or 12 dances in an hour, that's 60 dances a night. Now, my career and much of my dancing involve 4-day congresses, events, festivals. So I'm not going to include the day-to-day, because anytime I was home, I was still going to socials. And my first 2 to 3 years of dancing, I was out every single night from beginning until the very, very last song. So I'm not including that or any of the additional social dancing during the week. So 4-day Congress weekend times 60 per night, that's 240 per weekend. Okay, so let's round up to 250. So in a month, if I'm every weekend, and there were many years that I was booked every weekend, let's say in a month, 1,000 dances a month, or 12,000 a year, and dancing for 10 years would be 120,000 dances. Dancing for 25 years is 300,000 dances. Okay. And even if we're going to be conservative about this, let's break that in half, which would not be accurate. But let's say 150,000 social dances. I can say that I've definitely had in my life as a salsa dancer. So that's why I'm talking about salsa dancing specifically and social dancing specifically, because over the years, how have I been able to have fun? How have I been able to connect with my partners of all levels, of all skill levels, of all interpretations of the music, of all personalities, right? And why have I continued to do that? It's because I've wanted as many experiences as possible. So, just curious for all of you who are in chat, or who are here, what do you think your dance math is? Okay, just while I'm talking, I want you to think about that and share it with me. So, in this journey, this 25-year journey, minimum 150,000 social dances, of course, I have encountered a bunch of challenges, right? A bunch of frustration, moments of pure joy, injuries, right? There's tons of things that I've encountered along the way. And each of those things that I've encountered, my approach to them has impacted how I approach the next dances after that, and how I enjoy and appreciate or don't appreciate the following dances. So, the one really important point is it doesn't matter how long you've been dancing, whether you're a beginner or an advanced dancer, a social dancer or a professional dancer, there's always room for growth and there's always room for improvement. And there's endless opportunities for enjoyment if you have the right approach. Right? So I hear Mark Anthony here saying, yeah, 80 to 100K COVID break. Oh, yeah. So exactly. Like we've had so many dances. We don't even realize sometimes how many dances we've actually had over the years, which is pretty wild. So let me talk about some of the challenges and the frustrations that I've had as a follower. First, it was understanding what was asked of me. Because I didn't learn through classes, I learned on the social dance floor. Everything was new, right? I didn't know that, oh, this is a crossbody lead. I don't know what the hell a crossbody lead was until somebody tried to pull me across their body and I wanted to do my step on the spikes in the same spot. Then I understood some of these moves, but I was not completely able to follow these things because of my own body awareness. I understood what was being asked of me, but I didn't know how to execute it. Then there came a stage of, okay, those things are checked off. Now I want to express myself and I want to do it in the way I want to do it, which was kind of unconventional, which is still kind of unconventional and different from what the norm was for a follower and how a follower should express themselves. So that was, an obstacle I encountered. I still kind of encounter that. Then, as I'm getting better, I've got this understanding, I've got this awareness, but now I'm dealing with different personalities and different styles and techniques and skill levels on the dance floor. And I was having a challenge adapting to these different things that I'm encountering, especially with like strong leads or super, super soft leads and not getting that clear signal or getting too much of a signal. Then, after developing myself there, I get to a point where, all right, I can dance with rough leads. I can follow pretty much anyone. And then the challenge was a lack of motivation. Right? What's the point? If I can do all of this, then what's the point? And that ended up taking me to a point of humility. Okay, there's a lot more than what I think I know out there, way more. What I know is just a fraction of it. And also there's that human element in the dance, which is ever changing, not just person to person, partner to partner, but also within a person. It's constantly changing. I've said this before in multiple live chats. We are different day to day. We are different even minute to minute. And within a dance, we are different second to second. So that got sorted out. Now that I'm there, I'm connecting with my partner, I wanted to insert my own ideas into the dance. All right, I understand there's a lead that's for the most part dictating what's happening in the dance, but I want to do something. How do I do that? And then there was the challenge of understanding how to insert those ideas. Now that I've come up with unique, authentic expression, I'm encountering that resistance based on this. Leads are supposed to do this, and followers are just supposed to follow, right? That's a very generic way of putting it, but that was the understanding. So me adding anything to the dance and influencing the dance in any way was frowned upon. So these are some of the challenges that I've had as a follower. As a leader, because yes, I lead also, I don't have the crazy term patterns that somebody like Mark Anthony, who's in chat, or Super Mario, or Ismael, or Terry, or Panayotis, or any of these people have. But these were the challenges I faced as a lead. That was one of the challenges. It was not having that many moves and feeling repetitive in my dance and feeling that my partner is not having fun and is probably getting bored. So that was a mental block that I was having. Then it was like, all right, do I want to approach and learn all of these crazy term patterns? Do I want to dedicate my time? Because I've already dedicated my time to being a really good follower and understanding all of these elements. This would really require an investment out of here into there. I can't be spreading myself so thin. And no, I did not want to do that. But I did want to interpret the music, the dance, the same way I did as a follow, outside of term patterns that are really common with my partner. Now, that was a challenge. And then as a lead, one of my biggest challenges, because I'm a small person, okay, and I'm typically smaller than every leader I've danced with, and also typically smaller than every follower I've danced with, was dancing with heavy follows, right, who would put all of their weight into me, or into their back step and yank me forward, or grip at my hands when they were doing a spin, right? Like, how do I deal with these things? So, question for everybody who's here: can you relate to anything that I just mentioned? Or what else would you add to this list from your own experience? I'm curious. All right. Wade's referring to the math. I'm not a math surgeon, but I'm still qualified for gold status. All right. Leonisa from Union City. Cool. All right. Again, if you guys are just joining, please send me a message and let me know where you're joining from, what city, what country. I always appreciate the broad, diverse nature, global nature of our live chats and of our community in particular. All right, Cecile, all of it. Mark Anthony, yes. If you have something specific to add that you've experienced that I did not mention, please, by all means, throw it into the comments. We can take a look at it later, okay? So one thing I do want to mention is on the dance floor, we talked a lot about like leaders being rough and painful. My personal experience that I have actually been hurt more by other follows on the dance floor than I have by my own leaders. As rough as they might have been, as strong as they might have been, like I've gotten stepped on multiple times, heels right through the top of my foot, I bumped into, and most commonly, I've been smacked with the back of an extended styling arm while someone's dancing next to us, okay? I want to say shit happens, okay? In this dance, on the dance floor, things happen, okay? Now, my goal as a social dancer, as a leader and a follower, has always been to have as much fun as possible, regardless of my partner, and to always bring my best and bring out the best in my partner as well. Right? This has been my focus of my dance. This has been my focus of teaching, of coaching, of my friendships, of my relationships. I always try and reflect. What am I doing Am I in my best position? Am I in my best state? What am I bringing to the table? What is my partner bringing to the table? Do I even understand what they're bringing to the table? How can I make this work? Right. And with dance, it is not about making it work forever. It's not about making it work for multiple dances. It's often just making it work for 5 minutes. Okay. Which we're going to go into in more detail. Herman said, "Love this walkthrough of your journey. Incredibly relatable." I'm sure it is. Okay. I'm certain we've all experienced this, and that's the beauty of this dance as well, is that it is a journey, right? At the end of the day, it is a journey that we're all going through, and we're all going at our own paces, right? We're all deciding whether we want to follow the beaten path, or if we want to, say, take that detour and then come back, or maybe not come back, right? I mean, one of those detours could be sensual bachata from salsa, right? Someone tries it out and says, ah, you know what? Screw salsa. Don't want to learn that anymore. I'm going to go practice and learn this other dance. Okay. We're all on our own journey. We're all at our own pace. Some people want to sprint. Some people want to casually take a stroll, take a break, enjoy a picnic somewhere. Okay. It's all acceptable. It's all allowed in this space. So, oops. David. David said, "I'm in the 3,000 range partner dancing, salsa prior to partner dancing. I was hard hitting freestyle for over 20 years. All right. Not talking about freestyle, because I think I've danced in my bathtub many times, just about partner dancing. And the reason I stress the partner dancing is because those very conservative numbers that I presented, about 150,000 dances, are with another human being. Okay, there is a difference between dancing on your own and dancing with another person. There are different elements that are involved in connecting with another human being that are very unique and beautiful to salsa, to our community, to our dance, salsa dancing specifically for today's topic. So, this goal that I have, right, is to bring my best, to bring out the best in my partner, and to have fun, right? To always try and have as much fun as possible, no matter what. To achieve this goal, there's a lot to learn and understand, okay? And all of the things that we need to learn and understand to achieve this goal of always having fun. So, to be clear, my goal might not be your goal, and that is okay. My goal is to have fun with anyone and everyone, okay? That's my goal. And so, to achieve my goal, I realize that there's a lot to learn and to understand. And all of these things need to be approached with an open mind, a sense of curiosity, and a goal, a sub goal context of connection first and foremost. So let's talk about the lead follow relationship. How do you see yourselves? Like, tell me in the chat. Leader, follower, how do you categorize yourself? For me, I'm primarily a follower. I lead occasionally. I would be comfortable leading an entire night of social dancing, not a problem. But I would say that I am primarily a follower. But there's this misconception in the dance, okay, in partner dancing, that there's a strict divide between leaders and followers. But the truth is, because of the improvisational nature of this dance, that connection, lead follow connection, is way more complex and nuanced than we might understand. Like, lead and follow are roles, we say in our dance. And sometimes they're easy to identify. It's usually the guy who's leading and the girl who's following, or whoever's leading. We can usually tell when we're looking from the outside in who's the lead and who's the follow. But leading and following are actions that both leads and follows are doing interchangeably throughout the dance, move to move, intentionally and unintentionally. For example, a leader gives a lead for a double spin. Follower does a single spin. Who's the lead there? The follow. Because The lead might have intended to do something else, but now the lead is following the follower's single spin, that execution, that result, and then deciding what to lead from there. Same thing with a leader who gives a lead for a compact, right? Crossbody lead, like a small, tiny movement, crossbody lead. And the follower takes huge steps. The lead is now following the follow to the new location that the follow has arrived at to initiate the next lead. Like these are unintentional. Maybe the follower doesn't even realize that they're doing it or didn't read it or decided to do something. They're unintentional, but they can also be intentional where the follower is actively leading the leader to a different place than where the leader intended. I have done that many times in my dance. That is one of the things that I enjoy. But to be able to do it, I need to understand a lot more than the move itself. Now, I remember being asked by a student who saw a move that I had done, kind of looping around someone's arm while they are moving in a circle, and showed me a video and said, I want to learn that. And I think this is a challenge, for followers, also sometimes leaders too, is, what is that move a move that's independent, or is it a collaborative moment? Because those kind of moves that I do within the dance, those are collaborative. I am basing my movement, the insertion of my creativity, entirely on what I am sensing, what I'm receiving from my lead. I don't just do that move willy-nilly. I do that move based on multiple conditions, multiple boxes being checked before I even attempt it. And on that note, with every attempt, I'm always positioned and I'm always prepared for recovery. Like, let's say it doesn't go the way I want it to go. What am I going to do? Fall on the floor? Well, which I'm okay with, FYI, okay, because I'm not scared of the ground either. No, instead, I think, okay, if my lead does not actually see that I'm doing this and does something different, can I adapt? Can I recover? Can I get back into the basic? Right? So the dance is this lead and follow back and forth constantly, right? And we got to understand and appreciate that. And when you realize how much you are leading and following, you start to realize that the dance is collaborative. You realize that it's contributive. Both people, both sides are contributing to that relationship, that interaction, that existence, right? And every dance is unique. Like it doesn't matter if it's the first dance you've ever had with somebody or it's the 100th dance that you've had with someone familiar. Like I see, my friend Mark in the chat. I've known him since, I don't know, 2003. Okay, so what, 20 years, more than 20 years. But when I dance with him, I'm not thinking, oh, been here, done that. No, I'm thinking, what's new? Who is my friend today that he wasn't yesterday, that he wasn't 20 years ago? And who am I differently? How have I changed? And what is going to come of this changes, these individual changes and how they combine together? Where are we going to connect? Where are we going to be disconnected? And all of that is okay, right? So each dance depends on what you bring to the table. And this is where I say the leading and following being interchangeable throughout the dance, whether you're aware of it or not. It's happening, okay? Move to move, second to second, moment to moment, okay? Means that we're both responsible in this dance. It's not one person's responsibility, right? So we're both responsible for what we bring to the table as well as what we leave off the table, consciously or subconsciously. So there is an equal responsibility for both of us. If we want to create something beautiful together, we have got to bring the best tools to the occasion. Okay. If I want to build a house with, let's say, who's in chat here? Herman. Okay. If I want to build a house with Herman and he's bringing all of these tools, like the right tools for building the house, and I'm just showing up with flip-flops, for a big construction project, am I really bringing my best? Like, could I not contribute in a more effective way? I don't need to bring the same tools that he has. Maybe I don't even own them, but I should try to come prepared, right? Same goes for the leaders. It's a two-way street when it comes to that. So that being said, we're both responsible for ourselves and to each other, right? And that's that element that brings about a well-rounded dancer, right? Which is an interesting concept, because I used to think of salsa dancing, like social dancing, was a skill. Like I really lumped it all together. And that was a long time ago. That was before. But the truth is, this social dance, salsa dancing, is a skill set, right? And we all have diversity in the skill sets that we are bringing to the table. Okay? Technique, that's one aspect. Speaking for myself, I'm great on one and on two. Linear styles, salsa. I'm not that great at a Cuban salsa. That's not something that I've really grown up with. That's not something I've been exposed to a lot. So it doesn't come naturally to me to step out of the line of the dance. So yes, I'm skilled in salsa, but I'm not skilled in salsa. I'm skilled in salsa on one and on two. All right. And when we think about our dance, and I always hear this, both from leads and from follows, okay? We want freedom, right? We want freedom in this dance to express ourselves. But again, what is the effort that we're putting in to develop that expression, to make sure that expression is effective, that it is understood, right? So if expression is a language, let's say, then how much time have we spent learning the alphabet, learning vocabulary, learning grammar, right? What do we understand about the language? Because I could be good at Cuban dancing, but I'd have to learn some of the fundamental of it first. I can't bring my knowledge of linear salsa and say, because I'm good at this, therefore I am good at everything that is salsa. That's not the way it works, right? So for free, creative and collaborative expression, that is following some rules, but also breaking rules and stepping out of the box. And that's why every dance is unique. Like, yes, you might see people doing like 50 couples on the dance floor doing crossbody leads, and everyone looks a little bit different than the other person. So they're doing something based on rules, but they're also kind of breaking out of it, right? And in order to break out of it in a conscious way, right, intentional way, we need to know the rules and define the box. Like I said this before in my classes, I've said this in previous live chats. Bruce Lee, paraphrasing him, learn the rules, master the rules, break the rules. We all want to break the rules. Right? We don't want to go through the process of learning the basics, learning the timing, learning connection, learning about all of these other things. We want to break the rules, because that's often what we're inspired by. So, oh, look at those people doing all those crazy things. That's what I want to be able to do. But those steps cannot be taken out of order. Because if you're breaking the rules without learning them and mastering them, you're just random. And you probably cannot execute that again. Okay? So it's important for us to appreciate and embrace that structure, which is learning the rules first, mastering those rules, and then thinking about how we can break them. Let me just take a couple of comments here. Herman said, that's insightful. As a lead, I'm always adjusting to what the follower does after a signal. So true. It's a conversation where we adapt to how the other responds. Salsero Chinito, leader and occasionally follower. Mark, it's a conversation between both partners, not an argument. Yep, Leonisa as a follower. Christian from Montreal as a lead. I read from the following on an Argentine tango blog from a lead a long time ago, and it has stuck with me since. I lead, but I follow. Indeed. And all great leaders do, not just in dance, but in life in general. But again, the follower, I want to emphasize this. The follower is not an object, okay? The follower has agency. And with agency comes responsibility. And that is a personal thing that you have to take upon yourself that you can bring to the table, okay? Just because you have a speaker, just because you have a speaker at some event, for example, right? You have a speaker who's speaking to everybody. Just because you're in the room does not make you a listener. You need to actively practice the skills of listening. You need to pay attention. You need to understand what's being said. You need to process that in your own way, make it relatable so that the message sticks. And if it's not a presentation, but rather some kind of workshop, then if you want to engage in that conversation, you have to also be willing to understand the language enough to communicate something back, right? Ask a question. Suggest a different topic of discussion. Learn how to redirect that conversation, right? We are not passive as followers. Speaking as a follower, we're not passive in this process. We are quite active in the process, but we can be active unintentionally, going through motions without realizing what we're doing and why we're doing it, or we can do it intentionally. And when we take that intentional approach, we can get so much more out of it, and we can give so much more out of it, and we can create so much more as two partners. Candelaria from CDMX, what is that? Capital of Mexico, I think, right? And I'm sorry, this is just going to be one of those days where I'm going to have to drink a lot because I have to say a lot. Water, okay? Now is not the time. It's 12:30, 8 p.m. No alcohol, just water. Okay, so the technical aspect, right? Linear salsa. That's one element of it. Learning the rules, knowing those rules, mastering those rules, and then trying to think about how you can break out of the box, right? When we think about our basic step, and feel free to share in the comments if you've been taught this way. I know many dancers who are taught to take small steps and mark their basic throughout the dance, right? Take small steps. But in a fluid dance with a slower song and maybe bigger moves, these dancers will struggle because they don't realize the many different ways that they can mark the basic, and that steps can be small, but they can also be big, right? Like as a follower, you don't have to step back on 6 if you can create the proper resistance and tension in your point of contact, and you can make sure you land where you need to be on 7. Right? Those are things that allow you to break out of the rules, but you cannot do those things if you don't understand the rules first. If you need a 6 to step on 7, then you'll never just be able to free flow in that space. So that's that element of this dance requiring a certain element of technical knowledge and understanding the rules, the foundation, and then exploring the expression a little bit more. Looking at the Herman said, love this idea of salsa as a language. Neri uses this analogy as well. When dancing is not about showing all the words or moves you have ever known, but picking appropriately for partner and song. Herman, I'm going to talk about this later, but I feel like I'm going to forget, especially if more comments are coming in. So I'm going to talk about that here as well. It's true. First of all, if you know a lot of moves, the chances of you being able to put all of your moves into a dance are minimal, okay? Like 0.0001%. Because I know people who, like, let's say Super Mario, right? Who's the man a million moves. He's probably got thousands of patterns. There's no way he could fit all of those into one 5-minute dance or a 3-minute song. Okay? It's impossible. So first of all, yes, not about showing all of your moves. However, at the same time, there are people with a lot of moves, right? And you might not know many of these moves. And that goes for leads and for follows, right? Because there are dancers who will dance with me as a leader and not be aware of the many different ways things can be executed. But because I know different ways and I've approached and I've experimented and somewhat, understood how to insert it where I want to insert it, they're going to get a different experience from me. Right. And so there's an element of also appreciating what people are bringing to the table. And to a degree, yes, having that adaptation, right, to someone's level, but also appreciating that you get something different from somebody. So I would rather not dance with everyone catering to me. I would rather adapt myself to my partners, because if everyone catered to me, I would be where I am, where I was many years ago, more than 2 decades ago. I'd probably be the same dancer that I was back then. So I prefer, as a follower, to constantly look at each opportunity as experimentation, exploration, curiosity, guides my pursuit. And even as a leader, if I'm leading and I'm dancing with a follower who is, a higher level follow, I'm not that great of a lead, but I'm going to try more things with that person because I know that they can execute things. So I want to try and advance myself through them because they're already there where I am not. Right? So that being said, now, speaking of this dance, going back to the things that I wanted to talk about. So speaking of this dance and this lead and follow nature of it, okay? Forget the dance at all. Don't forget the dance. Sorry, I'm going to come back to that. Think about the dance and tell me if you think that this dance is athletic in nature. I'm curious. I guess it's an art. Painting is an art also, okay? But this dance, is it athletic in nature? Personally, I strongly believe that it is. Right? We're working with physics of movement, okay? And this is where we can almost jump out of the dance itself. Like, forget the basic step and the timing and all of those things. If we get out of those restrictions, okay, not those restrictions, those rules or those structures, we can still execute many of the moves that we have in dance just based on the physics of movement, right? And physics of movement as individuals is complex. Like, if you are training to do something like a bodybuilding competition or a marathon or a sprint, you understand how many things are involved in being able to execute that. So within dance, there's a greater complexity. There's even a higher athletic level to it because it's not just you. It's you and another person doing the same thing and trying to combine that and connect that nonstop, right? And again, it is second to second, moment to moment, move to move. That's constantly changing. So it's not even like walking with someone next to you and being side by side with them. Like, yeah, sure. Once you start, maybe you can maintain it. It's imagine that you're both on some wobbly platform and there's things coming at you from all sides and you still have to maintain this alignment with the other person. That's a lot more challenging. So the dance is much more challenging. Like, some of the elements, okay, that are involved in every single move that we do include force. Yes, force. Okay, not unnecessary force, but force that is required for movement. Leverage, momentum, inertia into momentum, torque for spins, balance, equilibrium of our own, plus equilibrium shared with our partners. Gravity, how do we leverage gravity, right? How do we leverage the connection with the floor? Our reaction time. It's one thing to process something in our minds and say, got it. There's another thing for our body to react the way we imagined it in our head, right? Energy transfer. How are we transferring energy? What's the elasticity that's taking place in a certain movement? The tension, right? These are just some of the elements that are present in our dance beyond the timing, okay? Beyond the crossbody lead or a right turn. This is the underlying elements of this dance. So for all of you, just curious, what is your preparation for this dance? Right? Maybe you haven't pondered all of these things, but what's your preparation for this dance? Like if you are thinking, if you were inspired, okay, by somebody who was doing some crazy stuff, what did you do to prepare yourself to do those things that you were inspired by? Like for me, for example, I saw a girl way back in the days, this woman Natalie, who was a ballet dancer, and she used to spin like a top. And other people who were doing like lifts and tricks and stuff, like crazy things in Toronto. And then coming to New York and seeing a different style and the speed at which they danced and how sharp they were, and then traveling the world and seeing all of these other things. My preparation for the dance would included and still includes, like this has now just been a part of my routine, regular exercise. I want to strengthen my body so it performs, so I've got peak performance whenever I get on the dance floor, right? Practice. If there's something like spins that I want to get good at, I want to be able to do it a few times, right? I want to see whether I can do it on my own before I can see if I can do it with a partner. Like, what am I bringing to the table, right? So curious, what are some of your inspirations, right? What are the things that you have been inspired by that you wanted to pursue? Maybe you dropped off that pursuit, you're doing something else, but whatever it is that you want to do, how are you preparing yourself? How are you preparing your body for this athletic activity? It's going to take Herman, super athletic. Oh, did I lose connection? All right, it's going to be one of those things where I have my S20. Apologies for the lost connection. Looks fine here until it doesn't. Mark said changes directions in a split second. Yep. Herman, I'm currently working with momentum and potential energy to create flow. Salsa dancing is so deep. Lifelong journey. Yes, 100%. I am on board with that comment. Okay. It is a lifelong journey. It is not a dance that you're going to master in a month or 6 months. I'm sorry. It's not that kind of dance. And that is actually what's beautiful about it. That's what's unique about it. That's what makes it stand out compared to some other dances out there. It is a lifelong journey, and there is endless opportunities and possibilities, things that you can learn, ways that you can grow, different ways that you can connect, and ways that you can express yourself alone and with a partner. And that's beautiful about it. Herman said preparation, having a practice partner, shadow leading, constantly listening to music. Mark, cardio, stretching. Yeah, I didn't even mention cardio. This dance, huge cardiovascular activity, right? And even that can change depending on the environment that you're in. I remember dancing in, where was it? Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think it was Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yeah. Like high, wherever I was beyond an elevation that I'm used to in New Jersey. And the air was thin. So my cardiovascular endurance at a social in New York did not even compare to what I needed to get through a night of dancing over there. Everybody else was fine. So back to skill sets, right? These people actually had a better skill set in cardiovascular endurance in those settings than I did, even though I might have had more experience and more moves or more technical knowledge, right? Different skill sets. Wade said, I'm taking different kinds of classes that help me understand the alignments and strengths of my body, ballet classes, Horton classes, Dunham classes. Beautiful. Okay. And actually, Wade mentioned this, and this kind of brings me to, what was it? There's a show called Hard Knocks. If you know it, let me know. Anyways, it's about NFL, and it typically goes through a specific team, and it follows them through the preseason. So right now, they are following the Chicago Bears. And it was interesting because there was a guy who was actually from Canada, and he was an offensive linebacker or center. And his first game, he got injured. Okay. He got pushed. All right. Football, we know, is lots of risk for injury. Okay. It's very athletic, very demanding on the body, but he's there. And as he was in contact with the other team's center, he got pushed so hard that his foot slipped in the grass. He basically went into a split and pulled his groin muscle, and he's out. He's not getting a chance to get back on the field, which is unfortunate because now he can't show his skills to see if he'll make the roster of the team. Okay. Now, football, when we think about football, we're not thinking, oh, maybe you should do Pilates for football. All right. We're thinking, all right, we lift weights, right? Push a sled, practice speed drills. But we're not thinking Pilates or ballet, right? We don't think about those things. But could they come in handy? Like if this athlete, right, also cross-trained in something else. Let's say he was doing Pilates and yoga, and he had more flexibility in his groin and his hip flexors and his inner thighs. Maybe that dropping into a split would not have meant a complete exit from playing the game and for a couple of games. Maybe he could have continued. Maybe it would have been uncomfortable, but maybe he could have continued, right? So our preparation for the things that we want to do are important. And there's a lot that is possible. And there's also a lot of things that we don't even know are possible that can happen. And so how do we prepare ourselves for what we think is going to happen as well as the unexpected? Wade also saying, putting the work on strengthening my core and my back, trying to be flexible more too. Yep. Mark said, training to keep your techniques current to today's changing landscapes on the dance floor as salsa is consistently changing and evolving. Yes, absolutely, which I'm going to touch upon. And Herman said, for the prep, also the idea of being present, leaving the stresses of the world behind so that you can be present for your partner. If both can do that, I find the dance connection experience is much better. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that too. Yeah, excellent points. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Again, the most obvious thing, like athletic skill, cardio. I totally missed that on my list. So thank you, Mark, for sharing that. And thank you all for your comments. So please continue to share your thoughts in the comments. I will read them to our audience, and also this YouTube will be available. Wow. This live chat will be available on YouTube as a replay. So you can always go back and revisit it, even if you cannot stay or if you have joined a little bit late. So the preparation, right, is important. And I want to say this, we don't all have to pursue this deep understanding of all of these elements and prepare in all of these ways by taking different classes and training, fitness and all of this stuff. But it does make a difference if you actually approach the dance with a personal accountability, because when you take control of what you can do, what is within your control, you'll be surprised at how much more fun and free you feel on the dance floor, how much more you can get out of that dance connection. So for all of us, it's important, back to that learn the rules, master the rules, break the rules, gradual skill development, right? First, identify what's important to you. What do you want to achieve in your dancing? And whatever your goals are, they can change, right? There's nothing saying that because you said, I want to be this, that you have to do that. No. This is a free, again, a journey that is yours to decide how you want to pursue it and where you want to stop or where you want to trail off and go in a different direction. But you need to be clear on what it is that you want to achieve, right? Just decide what's important to you, and then try to understand what skills are involved that will help you get there. Then focus on your personal growth, your own pace, and your own goals. Right? Understand that everyone's got a different pursuit. Some people are always trying to push the boundaries. Instructors, artists are always trying to push the boundaries. The average dancer might not have any desire to be able to do 10 spins on one leg with their head tilted and holding the other foot. I don't even have that desire, right? But I'm not going to knock anybody who wants to pursue that. That's totally up to you. But based on my desires, I'm going to work and train the things that are going to help me achieve those goals. Okay. So whatever your level and your pursuits, it's also important to know Who can provide that for you? Right? When it comes to the lead and follow connection, like there are things that we feel comfortable doing, there's things that we want to do, but because it's a partner dance, it's going to be a collaborative effort. As we are going through this journey, I am sure we can identify multiple people who can deliver the experience that we want. So you have a choice whether you want to keep leveling up yourself, okay, and say, I, like myself, I want to be able to dance with anyone and everyone. And I don't care what style they're on. I don't care if they're off time. I don't care if they're really light or really heavy or non existent, too strong. Technique is all over the place, or totally different style of dancing. I don't care. I want to be able to dance with them. Okay. So my pursuit of this dance is about connection with anyone and everyone. You might not want that. You might not have any desire to pursue that. And you might just say, I want to dance this particular style of dance. I like what I've learned so far. I like where I'm at. I'm good here. And that's okay. However, then it's important for us to not project that onto other people either. Like I've said this many times, an advanced dancer should be able to adapt to a beginner dancer. But at the same time, stylistically, if we have different types of dancers, I'm not going to ask, let me relate it to friends and activities. Okay. I'm not going to ask my friend who loves to just take casual strolls down the street to go for a run with me. I'd rather ask my friend who's into fitness and likes to push their limits to go for a run with me. Okay. I'm not going to force that expectation on somebody else. Likewise, I'm also not going to ask the person who likes to run as exercise to take a walk with me, because they're going to feel like that's not really what I want to do. Yeah, I can walk, I can run, so I definitely can walk, but that's not what I want to do. Like if we're going to go work out, we're going to go run or do something strenuous. So I am also mindful of who I'm asking and for what I'm asking. And so we always have that option in this dance community. There are so many different dancers out there, so many different levels, so many different styles, and people that we actually know that we've enjoyed our dances with. So if you've got a certain level or you've got certain pursuits and you are not interested in pursuing anything beyond that, that is totally okay. No one is forcing you to dance with everyone and try everything new that's out there. But then choose your dancers, right? Choose your partners. It's a two-way street, that choice, okay? And respect what they bring to the table too. So if you don't want something complex, by all means, don't ask that complicated dancer. Okay. Ask the friend that you know can dance your style and give you exactly what you want. And if you're dancing with a complicated dancer, yes, they will adapt, but they're also working with a different mentality, a different mindset. They're going to want to push things, right? That's their nature. And so that might come out in the dance. How you respond to that is going to make a difference whether you connect or disconnect, whether you like that experience or don't like that experience. And lastly, on this point, with the whole athletic aspect of it and the skills is, don't compare yourself to other people in the scene and their progress or their pursuits, because we're all different. We learn differently. We have different desires in this dance. So when we are thinking about ourselves and our fellow dancers, especially if we start dancing with them at a certain period, and then we look at them and say, wow, we've both been dancing for 6 months, but you're so good at this, right? And so that means I suck. Like that doesn't make it easier for us to make progress in our own dancing, because we're making that comparison. They have a different learning style. Maybe they learn kinesthetic things very quickly, right? But if it was a matter of like reading a document on the physics of movement, they might not process that. But if the teacher was explaining it and showing them and making them feel what it feels like, they would understand it quickly. Whereas you might understand that the visual information differently, right? You might be able to read something and process it quickly, whereas they can't. So again, try not to compare yourself. Be clear on your own goals and accept that other people have different goals, learn at a different pace, and have different desires. And that's also okay. So addressing some comments here. Mark said, let's I'm a music driven leader. There are some songs that hit hard and make my creativity pop. So if someone asks me to dance, they need to get ready. And I love that you say that, Mark, because I also feel that way. And again, we sometimes look at this lead follow relationship and say, the lead is dominating the dance, and they're being musical, then I'm forced to be musical. Well, sometimes the follow does that too. There are many times that I'm hearing a song that I'm like, oh my God, I need to dance this song, right? And I can't find the dancer that I want to dance with. Someone asked me to dance, and I'm like, sure, let's do it, because I'd rather dance this song than not dance this song. And it comes out of me, right? It comes out of me because I'm almost lost in that moment. I'm lost in the music. And sometimes, yes, I do have to rein it in. And I do say that your partner is more important than the music. That ultimately you can disregard the music as long as you maintain that connection with your partner, but sometimes that's hard to do. And so if you see somebody who is like ramped up and like, whoa, I love this song, I can't wait to dance to it, and you don't know if you can actually have that kind of dance, or you're not sure about your skill level, I mean, at the same time, don't take that away from them, right? Allow them to have the dance that they want to have, instead of, let's say, for example, asking someone, they say no, and then you see them go dance with somebody else, and now you're personally upset by it. But do you think you could have given that dance to them, right? Maybe you could, right? But they already know who they think can give that to them, and it's okay to pursue that, right? So there's that, again, there's that level of kind of acceptance and compassion and invitation for everybody to pursue what makes them happy, pursue what fulfills them. Okay, we're dancing all night most of the time. Okay, and there might be many songs that we dance to that we're not completely in it. All right, but then all of a sudden you hear something, you're like, yeah, I really want to get that song the way I want it, and I know who can give that to me. Right, and speaking on that, different styles, like in the professional scene, right? There are multiple artists. Because if I start mentioning local names, many of you are going to be like, don't know who that is. Doesn't make any sense to me. But let's say, for example, you've got, I'm going to list 3 people off the top of my head. Leon, and my co-host for Naked and Counting, who's got a very unique style. Nobody compares to him. Okay. You got Terry, super musical, sharp, quick changes of direction, like intricate details in the music are interpreted within the partner work. Super Mario, who can do pattern after pattern without repeating something, and just the smoothest lead from one move into the other. Okay. Tell me like, girl, you need to make your live chats 30 minutes. That's all we're giving you in terms of connection. But yeah, let's say these 3 dances, okay? All are highly skilled. But let's go back to skill set. They all have different skill sets, and they all have a different interpretation. And I'm not going to go to Super Mario for a dance like I would have with Terry or with Leon, but and vice versa, okay, across the board. I am going to appreciate what that person's bringing to the table and try and maximize that kind of experience. And if I hear a song that I'm thinking, ooh, this song, this is the kind of dance I want, and I know between these 3 people, I'm like, for sure, I know I can get this dance with this person, I'm going to go after that, right? It's not saying anything bad about the other dancers. It's just, I know where I've had an experience like this before. I want to relive some version of that experience. And so I'm going to go pursue that, and I'm entitled to it. Maybe I lose out on something even more beautiful or better with somebody else, but that's what happens when you make a choice. Okay? You pick one over the other. There's pros and cons to everything. And so, to be clear, you have your choices of who you dance with. You want a certain type of dance, by all means, find your dancer, find your partner. No one is forcing you to dance with the world. Okay? Yes, it's great because it expands your vocabulary, expands your repertoire, expands your experience. It deepens what you know about the dance and connection, but you are not obliged to do that. You can stick to your circle. You can stick to your group of friends. You can go out and dance with no one other than one person all night. That's fine too. Okay. But if we're going and reaching out to other people, it's not just about adapting to me. It's also about me adapting to you. and what you bring to the table. I need to kind of understand that and appreciate that it's not all about me. Okay. That's for leads and for follows. Right. To be very clear. Again, I'm speaking as a social dancer. Forget my profession, forget my artist status. I am speaking as a social dancer, going back to that dance math with at least 150,000 dances under my belt. Okay, I'm speaking as a social dancer, as a leader, and as a follower. This is what makes for a good dance experience. When there isn't that expectation, there isn't that pressure to be someone you're not, and there's an acceptance for who you are and what you're bringing to the table without forced compliance to what someone else is doing, or saying that this is how things should be done. Adaptation, absolutely, but also acceptance and accommodation for each other. Water. I always think my outline will be like, I'll get through my main points quickly, and then sure enough, I look at the time and I'm like, nope. Absolutely, Mark said, don't know to what you said that to, but I'm going to think that you said it to everything. Okay, so I want to go into another aspect, just a few more that I want to discuss. Athleticism. Okay, let's talk about an athletic activity. Physical activity. Okay, do you feel like any physical activity comes with the risk of injury? Or do you think that every physical activity, or if there's certain physical activity that you can name for me, there's zero risk of injury in a physical activity? Curious. Because the same elements that we talked about, okay, force, momentum, balance, torque, inertia, right? All of these things that make the dance, that elasticity, the tension, the resistance, all of these things that make the dance beautiful, dynamic, fun, creative, also make it risky. Okay, there's a risk of injury with any physical activity. I'm going to tell you very embarrassingly. Okay, walking. I have twisted my ankle more times while walking down the street than on the dance floor. All the dances I've had, all the unknowns, I have twisted my ankle more times walking on the sidewalk than on the dance floor. And that's walking forward in a direction that I can see at a very casual pace. Dance is not only moving forward in the direction that you can see with your eyes, but also moving backwards and also moving sideways. And also, if you add speed and changes of direction, turns, musical elements, and the unknown of what's going to happen next, well, we've got to have some space for things not going as planned. Because how can it always be executed perfectly when there's so many things at play? And again, all of these things are not taking place once in a dance. They are taking place multiple times in every dance. Okay, so there are risks. It's a physical activity that involves things that we are not used to doing day-to-day life. We do not walk backwards anywhere because we don't trust that we can't see. And yet in dance, we have that trust, both as leads and follows, going backwards. Okay, there is a risk of injury. So curious, I know some of you agreed with me earlier about, the challenges and frustrations, but have you ever experienced an injury while dancing? And if you want to share what that injury is, that would be great too. Wouldn't mind seeing what some of us have experienced. So I'll start here. I sprained my right ankle over 20 years ago, I think. Again, my brain fog, getting older. I sprained my ankle somewhere in the early 2000s. Yeah, almost 20 years ago. And my right ankle is still in poorer shape than my left because I never took care of it, because I kept dancing on top of it. I did not cancel any of my events. I didn't do any PT or anything like that. Now, my approach with that injury, okay, wasn't to dance differently, personally, okay, this is personal approach. Again, my own experience, and this is my approach. It wasn't to dance differently. It wasn't to say, okay, well, I'm injured and therefore this is now because my right ankle just turns out a little. If I'm standing and I let them loose, the right ankle will roll out much more. I could say, okay, well, I guess I'll just avoid spins and I'll avoid anything that involves too much pivoting or too much twisting because I am weak here and therefore cannot do anything. No, what I did was, all right, this is a weakness. That means I need to strengthen my attentiveness to this place. I need to strengthen and stabilize this part of my body. What other muscles could I strengthen to support that weak ankle? So that even though I suffered this injury, that there's no hindrance to the things I want to do in dance. I can keep on doing whatever it is that I want. Okay. That's how I also ended up approaching connections in the dance floor, right? With my partners. When I had rough leads, I'm thinking, okay, my shoulders feeling really sore because the lead is pulling. Well, what muscles could I use or how could I adjust my frame, my core muscle groups, the position of my arms so that I don't get yanked? So I started to understand the connection of my lateral muscles, my chest and my core, as well as how I step so that my arm is never extended beyond my body, but rather that I step forward when my arm is feeling resistance forward, right? Same thing as a leader. As I said, I am often smaller than most of my follows. Okay, so if they are heavy or volatile or taking big steps or lose their balance, body versus body is going to be hard to control. So I have worked on engaging my frame, worked on when I connect with them, how I move forward or how I move backward to restrain their excess movement so that I don't feel yanked, so that they don't take a big step, so that they don't lose balance with me, so that I don't get pulled over. Right? Like in this dance, and these are the kind of consistent injuries, right? These are the things that are often constant, that happen, and we encounter them, and we encounter them more than once, or we had a really one bad experience, but often it's multiple iterations of it, and we start to feel like, "Ah, yeah, I hate this dance, or I hate this, or I hate that person, or I hate this style," right? But there are things that we can do to bring to the table. Just like even as a leader, when it comes to spins, I know so many leads who have shown me swollen fingers because while they were giving a turn, the follower gripped and twisted. Okay. Now, whose fault is that? Let's not even talk about the fault part of it. Point is, the lead might not have led it well, or the lead might have led it perfectly and the follower did not follow it well, or the follower knows how to follow perfectly, but the lead kind of twisted their own finger in there. The input, right? The where it started is not as important for the injury because the injury happened. So how do we adjust the where it started point, right? As a follow, can I focus on my balance? Can I always recover my balance regardless of what's happening in the lead? As a lead, if I'm using a single finger, one middle finger to turn, well, there's a lot more mobility here, and it's the risk of injury is also higher. So maybe I want to make sure I have two fingers in there. Or maybe I realize that this particular follow is getting nervous in this dance. And so I want to adjust my dance to not do things that make her nervous or slowly increase the complexity of the dance within the dance, right? Like in this dance, as far as injuries, like I've been hit to the point of seeing stars. Okay, I have actually. I remember a dance with Terry. We both head-butted each other, and I'm gonna say head-butted each other because we both heard an accent in the music. I went up, and he went down, and we were right in front of each other, facing the same direction. And I pretty much got. I think I got his either his chin, it must have been his chin because he's much taller, and he got the back of my head. Both of us were like, oh my God, that was terrible. We still continued dancing after, the stars went away. I've danced with somebody who did a pull through where I'm behind and they did a pull through, and the elbow was, instead of pointing up, was pointing directly at my head. And I came in full force, full speed to an elbow right in the center of my head. Like that day was stars also. And I ended up having this big swelling. I looked like a unicorn whose horn was shaved off. Okay. And after I recovered, I was like, okay, let's keep dancing. I've also busted people's lips. I think that there's at least two people that I can think of where I was dancing, my elbow maybe extended too far, and I hit them across the lip and it was bleeding. I even hit one of my good friends and one of my favorite dancers in New York in the tooth while trying to hit a musical break. Okay. And I've had a follower as a leader, I've had a follower dip herself and take me down with her. Like these kind of things happen, you know? I know they're like the worst of the worst examples, but I mean, they do happen. And this is where I'm going to go back to like, why do some of these things happen? It could be a result of nervousness. It could be a result of uncontrolled momentum. It could be a misconnection. It could be early or late arrival, right? Like this move, I don't know to this day whether he did not lift up or I just came in early, right? It was a pumped up dance. I do remember that much. So maybe I was too excited and just kind of took a step too big at the wrong time. Or it could have been him. Point is, ended up with, shaved off unicorn horn, right? So it could be a result of that misconnection, that misalignment on like musical interpretation, as it was with Terry. And sometimes it's poor technique, right? Mine or my partner's, which is often hard to identify clearly sometimes in this dance. And it's really hard to identify it from the outside in. When I'm telling you, I can't even identify it within the dance of whether it was me or that or my lead. I say it's probably a combination of both. And actually, it doesn't really matter. We both adapted. And the point I want to make with injuries in dance, okay, both these constant, kind of consistent things that happen, shoulder or gripping of the hands, both for leads and follows, shoulder also for both leads and follows, as well as these bigger injuries, getting clocked in the face, right, or headbutted or something like that, or getting a dip and getting taken down with your follower. Like going back to my first point, that I'm referring to a dance between well-intentioned people. These are accidents, okay? They do happen in our dance. I did not mean to hit my partner, but I did. I try to be more mindful in my dance, but I haven't eliminated it. I can't guarantee 100% it won't happen. And the only way I can guarantee that it'll never happen is if I never try anything ever again. Same thing with my partners. I don't think any of my partners meant to hurt me, but they did. They're more mindful too, but it might happen again. Who knows how excitement might take over our dance, right? Who knows if we react to something in a nervous way? Who knows, right? There's so many unknowns in this situation. So that brings me to, hold on, let me look at the comments again. I haven't got any injuries, thank God. The only thing I've been getting hurt is my right shoulder, but always trying to strengthen them. And Wade and Mark said, I've also never had a dance. Really, Mark? All these years? Damn. Well, Wade, speaking about shoulder, that's one aspect of it. But if you actually engage your frame, the things that you're working on in terms of your core and your back, you might actually find it easier to keep your shoulder and your arm in a position that the shoulder does not need to come into play in the moves that you're doing. And the strength that you have might suffice to keep the dance safe for you the entire time. So next point that I want to talk about with this dance and this unknown, okay, is elements of execution and recovery in the dance. Okay, what do you do when things don't go as planned, as a lead or as a follower, whatever your position is in that dance for that dance? What do you do when things don't go as planned? Because in the past, I used to say, or I used to feel like social dancing was much more about execution, right? Drill, 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 perfect that move, and then you'll be good at doing it out on the dance floor. That's how it works. But what I've come to learn is that social dancing is much more about recovery than it is about execution. Like, yes, execution is important. Okay. But unlike performances where you have moves that are rehearsed to perfection, and the only thing that's going to change when it comes to the execution, the unknowns might be the surface of the stage, or the lighting on the stage, or the sound in the music, or what you ate, or how you feel that day. Right. But otherwise, you and your partner have rehearsed. You're with the same partner. You've been rehearsing for hours and hours on end. Like, there's that execution element. Okay. So unlike performances, social dancing is about adapting in the moment. Right. It's like I said before, each crossbody lead is going to feel different. Right. There's a novelty to each dance and each moment that's underappreciated. A crossbody lead with one partner can feel totally different to another partner. So it doesn't matter how many times you have executed a crossbody lead, you need to be able to recover to wherever you end up with this new person. A crossbody lead with the same partner can feel different at multiple points in the same dance. Right? The energy that you will have at the beginning of a dance for a crossbody lead might be very different when that descarga hits. Okay, when the song picks up tempo and pace and your energy is higher. Right? So there is an execution of a move. There's an understanding of what this move entails and executing it properly as a lead and as a follow. However, the recovery is really important. And the way we approach it is important. Because if we're thinking about executing to a certain standard and it must start and end this way, then we are not leaving room for all of the things that could happen that most likely will happen. Right? Something will be different from the way we did it with one person to another, from the way we did it 10 seconds ago to 30 seconds later. So instead of focusing on perfect execution, okay, because if you're looking for that perfection, you're most likely going to encounter disappointment. And now you're not going to feel like you enjoyed the dance. Instead of that, embracing imperfection, right? Every move that a lead leads, or that is suggested, right, by the leader, could be followed exactly as you thought it would go, or different. There's a permutation of it. Like, my ability to follow a crossbody lead, I have multiple variations for that. Okay. And so if you're looking for a perfect execution that I step 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 and hang out there, you might not get that from me. And if you have a problem with that, then you expected it a certain way, a perfect way, the way you learned it, the way you practiced it, then you are going to be disappointed in that outcome. You are going to be disappointed with the way I brought something to the table. Likewise, the lead for a spin. Right? There are many different leaders out there, some who are very light, some who don't give enough, personally, enough pressure to actually go into the spin, or they give a lead for a single but actually want a double or a triple. Others who are too strong. Right? If I am expecting a certain lead, like, yes, I know what a good lead feels like, but if I get something else, can I adapt to that? Right? Can I recover from a lead that started too strong and reduce the tension or the energy that's there, and still come out with recovering the move, rather? Right? So there's that element of, like, embracing the imperfection in the dance, and not definitely focusing on execution, but also understanding that it might not be perfect, and that ability to adapt and recover. So if something doesn't go as planned, think about transitioning to the next move instead of dwelling on the mistake, because I've had that too. You know, as leads, as follows, I've had leaders kind of look at me and say, oh, huff and puff, and I brush that off. I'm not going to say anything about that. I don't know where their mind is and why they're thinking that way. Could be the things that they've learned. It could be their state of mind that particular day. They're just in an annoyed mood and everything's bothering them. I'm not even wasting my time judging that. I'm just saying, no problem. Okay. I'm going to continue going on with the dance. You might feel like dwelling on the mistake, but I'm going to move on. Right? And we can all do that as leads and follows. And then back to that notion of the back and forth leading, right? When it comes to that recovery element, we're both leading and following back and forth throughout the entire dance. So that recovery is not just one person's responsibility. It's actually both people's responsibility. And if you can look at it like that, then you're always working together. You're always working towards a common goal. And that common goal is of connection and fun, and hopefully some kind of challenge, some kind of novelty, some kind of trial and error as well. Right. So when we shift our focus from perfect execution to smooth recovery, like, I can get out of this. It doesn't matter where this goes. I will find a way to reconnect. And we think about developing the skills for both, okay, learning how to execute properly, but also preparing our bodies and training ourselves so that no matter what happens, we have a good way out, a clear way out, a smooth recovery. Then, as leads and follows, we become more relaxed. And the dance is more enjoyable, because most of the tension, most of the stress often comes from that element of, damn, it didn't go as it's supposed to go. Now what? I'm nervous. I'm scared. Grip, tension, rough. Who knows what comes out of it? But when you feel like it doesn't matter where it goes, I'm going to find a way to recover with my partner, then you're relaxed. There's nothing that phases you. All right, a couple comments here. Danny, you adjust and keep dancing, having fun and laughing it off like it was the move itself. Yeah, and there's some moves that actually come out of those mistakes, and those are moves that you almost cannot replicate if you didn't have it recorded somehow. And Wade, yes, always thinking of solutions, because there's always a solution for any problem, or to prevent the problem from happening. Absolutely. So that being said, let me talk about couple more things. I think today's live chat is going to be like 2 hours. So fortunately, YouTube has long lives, and I have a lot to say. And I think it's important. Again, I want to kind of go back to information out there, okay, before I continue to my next point. I want to go back to the information that's available out there. We often encounter problems. We all encounter problems, rather, throughout our journey. Okay? There are things that we run into. There's obstacles that we run into. We might encounter conflicting opinions and viewpoints. And then we might feel like, well, like, where's the solutions? There's no solutions out there. This is a problem and no one's doing anything about it. But really, is no one doing anything about it? Or have you not tried to research this a little bit? Because I know many dancers who are actually providing instruction and information and mindsets to this dance to improve the experience. I have been doing this for my entire career, right? Including these live chats. This is free time, free coaching to everybody, from problems that I encounter with individuals that I say, okay, here's the solution, or here's what we arrived at. Like, how can I share this with everybody else? There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of different approaches that can broaden your perspectives and help you train to be better, to bring out the best in somebody else as well. But are you willing to spend that time? Because most people will say, oh, 90-minute live chat or 2 hours. I don't have time for that. But I do have time to complain about all the problems that I'm encountering. But I see some solutions, possible solutions, but I don't have time for that. Okay. So thinking about that. And on that note, mindset, okay, and how we approach things, right? How we approach our own learning. How do we approach our reflection of our own dances? Are we always pointing fingers outward, or are we also looking inside and saying, what could I have done differently? Or was I really nothing more than an object in this dance? And so there's nothing I could do because I have no agency. I have no ability to do anything. Or do I have an ability? And maybe that skill or that ability I did not work on. Could I develop it? Right? So when it comes to mindset, there's this element when it comes to the mindset and the social connection. Like, how do we deal with excitement, with anxiety, with stress, with missteps, with mistakes, with missed connections, with poor performances, or with a bad mood, or maybe poor nutrition, poor rest? Like, how do we deal with that? But more importantly, how does it show up in your body, right? How does it show up in your body, your connection with your partner, your dance? Do you even know? Because I've danced with dancers who have had motorcycles. I've danced with dancers whose hands are trembling when they start dancing, or their grip is really, really tight, leads and follows, because they're nervous. Right? Now I could look at that and say, oh, this person's so grippy, or like this is annoying. I can't even understand what they're trying to say. But I'm looking at it like, I think this person might be a little bit nervous, right? Maybe they are. And there's other things that are kind of confirming that to me. And jittery or grippy hands, they don't make for a great lead or a great follow. So what are my options here? Right? What's the mindset that I'm going to take? What's the approach that I'm going to take? Because there's always options. Do I struggle with the dance moves, which are actually layered on top of that nervousness, or do I address the nervousness? Like my choice initially used to be frustration with everything that's up here. Now I'm always digging deeper. Like, could they be nervous? So maybe I can try and remove that. How can I remove that nervousness and that pressure that they might feel? I'm going to make an intentional mistake. Maybe they're thinking, oh shit, I'm dancing with Magna and she's up here and I'm down here and she's going to be bored with me or whatever. So they're feeling nervous about that, or their first time dancing with me. So I'll make an intentional mistake and I'll laugh it off, or I'll smile about it. And in that moment, I can see a transformation in their face, in their body language, in the way they're breathing, as well as in the connection in the hands. Because now they're saying, oh shit, she can make a mistake. She's human too. Yes, I am. I'm not better than you in that sense. Right. So how can I connect with the person? And that is an approach. That's a mindset approach. Right. Because I know that I can just stay frustrated. That's easy for me to do. To say, this is not working out. Don't like this. I'm just going to stay frustrated. But if I stay frustrated, what am I actually doing? What am I bringing back? That tension is probably going to increase. And if I'm frustrated or tense or angry, the way anger shows up in my body is tension. So maybe I'm going to be even more tense. And now that person's going to be more tense. And now it's just a cycle that's going in the wrong direction. But when I address the source of the tension instead, that dance improves significantly. And that's important, right, for us when our mindset, like how are we approaching that connection? How are we approaching the problem that we might be facing within that dance? And then social connection. Okay, this one's important. And this one, my perspective and view on it has changed. And I need water again. And I'm going to look at the comments while I do that. Mark said, Magna, to be honest, I think in today's environment, more and more teachers are really focusing on popularity, likes, shares, and not focusing so much about education. So before I touch on the social connectedness, I want to address that comment. It's true. There are a lot more teachers that are focused on likes and shares. And so they're putting out whatever gets that engagement versus the education and the dance. However, there are dancers and there are instructors who are providing that. And this is where I say it is a student's responsibility to also pursue their growth along the avenue that they want. Okay? We all enter the scene however we enter the scene. With a shitty instructor, a great instructor, with good technique or bad technique, with someone who breaks down the ways to connect with another person, or someone who just focuses on the dance moves themselves. Okay, doesn't matter how we enter the scene. It is up to us once we have entered to decide, to make some critical thinking decisions and say, do I like what I'm doing right now? Is there more to this? What else could there be to this experience? Where can I find that information? Okay, that's a big part of education. It's not about it it's not about it getting delivered to you because you're thinking about it. Because I don't know what you're thinking about. I don't know what you need. Okay. And even if you're sharing that with people, I might be a part of that conversation to understand that, to say, oh, well, I have something for you. Okay. So look and explore and research and see what's out there, because you might be surprised by what you find, and that there is information out there, right? That there are ways, that there are solutions to some of the problems that you're experiencing, but you have to put in the work. Okay. Leads, follows. both have an equal responsibility. Students, teachers also have an equal responsibility. Okay? You are responsible for your own growth. You might be limited with what access to resources you have in your vicinity. Well, you explore beyond it. Internet has made everything accessible to us, including teachers. Okay? There's nothing saying that you have to do a private lesson in person. You can get on a Zoom call and have a private lesson with someone around the world if that's whose style you appreciate. Okay? There are many things that make education, knowledge, resources, and learning accessible to all of us today that weren't present back in the day, back when I started. I don't even know what Zoom was back then. I actually didn't even know what Zoom was before COVID. Okay, so it is a responsibility of our own. If we want to learn, we need to research. We need to spend some time. But again, that goes back to what I was saying before. What is your goal? You don't need to learn all of this. You don't need to know any of this if this is not your goal. If your goal is to have 5 moves in your pocket, and as a follower be able to follow those 5 moves, you can go out to the club or the social and dance with that one person who you can execute those 5 moves with back to back to back to back and have fun. You don't have to pursue anything else. No one's forcing you. Okay? However, if you want more, then you got to go look for it. Okay? You got to go find those things that you want. And I promise you, with the diversity that we have in this global dance scene, okay, the different types of teachers, the different techniques, the different styles of teaching even, okay, there's a lot that's available there. You just have to be willing to do a little bit of research and explore your options and then make choices based on the options available to you. So let me go to social connectedness. Smiling on the dance floor. Okay, this is the part that I said before that I had a different viewpoint on this. I had a different perspective. I used to think that if we are, enjoying ourselves, we should be smiling, right? And I actually felt like telling everybody, like, you should smile, smile more, smile more. But I've learned to see this differently. One example was with a dancer. I don't remember what song we were dancing to, but he was very serious faced. And I asked him, I was like, oh, why don't you smile a little bit more? Like, I feel like you don't have fun with me. But he asked me to dance, and we danced multiple times. And this was a question that I had asked him after a few dances. And he said, well, the lyrics of the song are pretty sad. And that didn't even cross my mind, because let's go into who we are as individuals. I am not Latin. Yes, I speak some Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish at the slang level of musicians and how they poetically put words together. I don't understand that stuff unless I sat there and looked at it and then had the translation in English and then said, okay, now I understand, right? I don't process it that way. Again, back to skill sets. That's not one of my skill sets. My skill sets in the music is the melodies. I might be able to follow the musician's voice, but not really follow what they're saying necessarily. And so I understood that as, whoa, this is different, right? Okay, so you're actually thinking about the lyrics to this song, or you understand that this song, it has a very sad undertone to it. So you don't feel like smiling, but you still want to dance with me, right? Focus appears differently. We often talk about leads, right? All right, leads, you guys should smile more. But let's think about what the lead is thinking about, right? Okay, who's around me? There's other couples. I'm trying to lead a move. I led a move. My follower did something different than what was expected. Now I need to go and recover that connection. I want to challenge myself. What are some of the moves that I learned? Could I do a variation of that move? Right? There's so many things that a lead is thinking about. They're focused, right? What's coming next? And what's coming next is happening every couple of seconds if you think about the dance. Now, think about how you look when you're focused. Okay, if I was sitting at my computer, thinking of writing a very important email, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be sitting at my computer like this. Oh, I'm so focused. I know exactly. It's very unlikely that I'm going to do that. Most of the time when I'm super focused, I am here. My brows are scrunched together. I'm not smiling. I'm focused. Does that mean I'm not interested? No, actually, I'm very interested. I'm heavily interested. right? So social relatedness varies from person to person. Okay? I will give you a personal example that's not in dance. I had a boyfriend once who great relationship until it ended, right? And great relationship right until it ended. There are no problems there. But our first few dates, I didn't even know if he was interested because he sat at the table, at least, especially in the first date, he sat at the table like this the whole time, was leaning back. So he wasn't leaning in the way I was. His communication and conversation was minimal, right? He wasn't completely engaging with the things that I was saying and would often kind of look off to the side. I thought he wasn't interested. Later to find that he wanted another date. And I was like, really? I don't even know what happened there. And the reason for that misconnection, that misalignment, was because I expected him to relate to me socially the way I relate to other people socially. I relate with smiles. I relate with an open body posture. I lean in, right? I engage in a different level. I ask a lot of questions. That's what I do. That's my feeling of being socially related to somebody. But not everyone's the same, right? How many different, like how broad is our dance? How global is our dance? Do we really think that people in a totally different country behave the same way that we do here in the US? The people are so different. So how can we expect that they are all going to relate to us the way we relate to other people, right? The people that we're close to. Like confidence can appear like arrogance. Being quiet, shy, or nervous could appear as disinterested. Concern could actually show up as disregard. Someone who's very concerned about the dance might be never paying attention to you. And you think, oh, they're not even paying attention. They're disregarding me as their partner. But in reality, they're super concerned and super present. Fear can show up as uncontrolled force. So can stress, uncontrolled force and tension, right? Pressure to perform or provide a certain type of dance. And all of those stresses could show up as domineering. Like there's so many ways that things can be interpreted and misinterpreted in this social relationship that it's important for us to understand that people are different. Okay. And we often don't know what's behind people and how they are, their behavior, what childhood they grew up in, what they've learned, you know, what they experienced that day or that week. We don't know, right? We can make a lot of assumptions on first appearances or first dances, and they can be completely incorrect, or they could be incomplete, or they could be unfair, right? Like we get a chance to discover the person in front of us during a dance, but we're never going to know them entirely. I mean, even with a dance, like how often, especially at a big event, I'm not talking small events where you see the same people or you're standing around on the side of the dance floor, but a big event where you're just dancing. How often do we say yes to dances and not even know the person's name? I will tell you, of like the 150,000 conservative estimate that I have, I'm pretty certain that I don't know 2/3 of those names. Okay. Because I just said yes. Someone asked me to dance. Well, would you like to dance? Yeah, let's dance. And as soon as we finished that dance, I was off to another dance. Okay. So how are we expecting our connections to take place? Right? Connection, especially connection the way we want it, the way I want it, the way I'm used to, isn't a given. And to be honest, it shouldn't be expected in the community that we have, considering the depth and diversity of human beings. Okay, forget the community itself, but the depth and diversity of human beings, the different ways they relate socially. So connection is pursued, it's created, it's maintained, it's sustained, it is recovered, it is repaired, and sometimes it's abandoned. And every one of those steps is a choice that we get to make. And it's not once that we get to make that choice, but many times, before a dance, during a dance, multiple times, and after a dance. right? Like there's so much more to the person in front of you than you'll ever know, than you'll ever be able to figure out from looking at them from across the dance floor or dancing with them for 5 minutes. There's so much more, and there's so much more to you as well. Okay, you who might be looking at somebody else. And there's so much more to you that I could never know about you by looking at you across the dance floor or even one dance. Okay, so that without that mutual pursuit of connection, we are missing out on that opportunity to discover another human being, to discover what they can bring in that moment, to discover what they can bring out of us in that moment, and combining that, what we could create together in that moment. And let me just address a couple of comments here. Mark said, if you're connected to the music, your energy and emotions will always change with every dance. Yep, that's true. It should, right? I mean, I don't listen to, I'm trying to think of the song. What's that? Shark, Baby Shark. Yeah. I don't listen to Baby Shark and feel the same way that I do if I listen to a soundtrack from Gladiator. So it's very different. Like I can't even feel, like I could try and force myself to feel, happy go lucky like that to the other song, but it would be a real internal conflict. Okay. I would have, I'm losing the term, but it would be an internal conflict. I would have a difficult time trying to be like this to music that's really deep and dark. And it's true. The music does, as Mark said, the music tells you what to do. You don't tell the music what to do, right? You can disregard it, okay? You can. People are capable of that. People sometimes don't even know that they're doing it. And sometimes you do it intentionally because you are trying to connect with your partner and you're saying, okay, there's no way that I can interpret this music in the way I'd like to, but I'm dancing with this person. I said yes to this person. This person is a beginner and I'm going to cater this entire dance to them. And so I'll dance this song one other day when it plays again. I'm going to find the partner that I want. But for this moment, I'm not going to even pay attention to the music. That is also an option. Okay. And this, I want to actually talk about back to like the diversity, right? Diversity of offerings and diversity of pursuits. Mark actually mentioned this before, right? One of the beautiful aspects of this dance is its diversity. There are so many variations, so many permutations of outputs of salsa around the world, all based on a similar origin or input, right? Let's say we want to say, okay, salsa's origins are in Cuba. Well, what does it look like in New York? What does it look like in Puerto Rico? What does it look like in France? What does it look like in Kenya, right? It's very different than the origin. Even though the input for all of these dance styles is this from Cuba, they are all very different, right? And they're different because of the cultural influences, because maybe they have other dances that are present in those cities or those communities that are influencing how they want to interpret and how they move their body naturally. And that comes into the dance. Right? Well, maybe the local teachers have traveled somewhere and learned something, or the local teachers are of a different background, and so they're bringing something of their own to the dance. Right? We have a variety of styles within just New York City. Okay, just this within this New York City island of Manhattan. Okay, you have different styles of dancers. Schools that are based downtown, midtown, compared to uptown. Right? An advanced dancer from one of these schools would need to adapt significantly and would be challenged to dance with someone who has a different style, who's also an advanced dancer, who has a different style from a different school, right? And what feels new and challenging and foreign and even scary to us in New York City is a common style in another country. Like, the way we dance at a social in New York, if I go to Paris, especially if I go to Leon's social, Agua, okay? The dancers there, many of his students, okay, and he's been in the Paris scene for a long time. They all have adopted this salsitsu, right? Playing with different moves in different ways. None of those people dance like that in New York. Sorry. Not that it's a bad thing. They're different and they're beautiful because they're different. And I get that opportunity to have this if I'm in New York and have something very different if I'm in Paris. Right? There's no right or wrong. Their preference to be really clear. Well, I'm losing my connection again. No, okay, I'm back. There's our preference, and we need to be really clear between objective um, objective statements and subjective preferences. Right? We can see another style and approach it and say, I want to try that. Right? We could try it and say, this is my approach. Okay. I didn't get it, but I'm going to work at it because I want a new world of experiences. I want to broaden what I can do and who I can dance with. I don't want to limit myself. I want to be able to dance with that style of dancer because all the people in that country kind of dance like that. And if I ever go to that country, I want to feel like I have some tools in my pocket to help me hang. Right? And as followers, we talk about this like, we're limited or I was limited. I actually want to say, when I was outlining this live chat, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, followers, we get that opportunity of experiencing something brand new way more than leaders do. And not to say that leads don't get it, but followers have that opportunity even more. Like a leader is typically perfecting their style, their moves, their repertoire. They're working through similar things and coming up with some variations more or less over and over. That's their style. And that's why we can look at someone like Super Mario and say, yeah, that's this is what Super Mario is good at. This is what he's spent his life perfecting, right? Or Leon or Mark or Terry, right? Whereas followers, we're not really learning moves, are we? Right? We like, let me compare it to this. Leaders are like restaurants, like a certain cuisine restaurant, and we are patrons. They have their menu. They can make a variation of a dish for you if you have allergies or something like that, but you're not likely going to be served Kung Pao chicken at an Italian restaurant. But as a follow, we do have that variety of choice. Right? We can have Indian food for breakfast and Chinese food for lunch and then Italian for dinner. Or we can have all of those three things within 15 minutes of 3 songs. Right? That's not a constraint that there's all these things that we can't do. That's freedom. Like we can, and that's one of the ways to approach it. Right? Is that there is all this variety, and that we as followers, especially, I want to stress that, is we have so much more available to us. And likewise, we could try a cuisine or style of dance and say, that's not for me. Right? There are some foods, not many, that I've tried and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I ever want to try that again. And usually I've tried them more than once because I rarely cut something out after one try, because I wonder why I didn't enjoy it. I wonder what I brought to the table. Like what fear or what apprehension or hesitation did I bring? What did somebody tell me before I had tried this food that might have influenced my reaction to it? Right? I think about those things. So I'll give it another try in a different environment. If I still don't like it, that's fine. It's not for me. But whether we like or dislike a style, we can coexist in this community. Okay? There is space. There needs to be space in this community for all cuisines, just like there is in this global community, just like there is on planet Earth. Okay? Because this dance is spread across planet Earth. And so on that note, this is my final point. Let me look at some comments here. Anton, you are late. Well, followers can learn faster. Followers, that's not why followers learn faster. Learning is an active process. Okay? You being present in an environment where you could learn does not mean you're going to learn. Much of what we do in life is an active process, especially if we are invested in getting something out of it. Okay? Especially if we're invested in learning, developing, growing as a person. They're active processes. Following is an active process. You must do the act of following. Leading is an active process. You must do the act of leading. And like I said before, interchangeable. Speaking, right? That you gotta be actually trying to speak and communicate a certain way, or you're just saying words out of your mouth. It's different than communicating. Listening, just because you're in a room present with other people that are talking does not mean you're listening. You can hear sounds, but doesn't mean you're listening. Just because you're in a classroom does not mean you are learning. You need to take that step and open your mind and decide what it is that you're trying to learn. Decide what it is that you want to absorb, or that you want to absorb everything that you're hearing here. Be curious about it. Be a sponge up here. And then after that, process and reflect what it is that you learned. And then decide, do I want all of this? Or what parts resonated the most with me? What makes sense? What didn't make sense? What questions could I ask to figure that out better? That is the active process of learning. So there are followers who have been dancing, okay, for a long time, but might not have this, like, yes, they can follow, okay, they can kind of get through it, but are they really learning that much from each partner? Or are they just going through the motions, right? So learning is an active process. Yes, followers get greater exposure to different styles if they're choosing to dance with multiple partners of different styles, okay? But that does not necessarily mean that they're learning, okay? Because you can go through a dance as if you're really not processing anything. You're really you're like, your body's just in an automatic fashion, going through the motions because you've done that technique or that movement multiple times. And so you can execute it while you're asleep with your eyes closed. Right? That does not mean you're learning and processing the moment. It's that active process of saying, I'm in this moment. I'm going to take as much as I can from it. That's been my approach. And like I said before, it does not have to be your approach. You do not have to want this as much as I do. You can pursue it to whatever level you want. Everything is okay. Like I said about the different cuisines, okay, the diversity in offerings, there's also a diversity in pursuits. And there is a space for everyone there too, right? Those people who are like, you know what? Excuse me. There's a space for those people too. People who have said, you know what? I am like, Indian people. I know many people when I was growing up in India, like, we didn't eat anything else. There were other cuisines out there, but we just ate the home cooked food, right? And that's what my mom would make, and that's what we would eat. And that's okay. Well, we didn't want to try anything else, and that was fine. And so it's okay. If you don't want to try all the different cuisines, there's a place for you. I am an exploratory person. I want to taste every food around the world. Okay. And I want to be able to like approach each of those moments of trying a new dish, a new cuisine, with an open mind and with like, wow, look at how much the world has to offer me. Like, this is not something that's accessible here. But if I go to Philippines, all of a sudden, this is something I can find on the street, right? Something I can't find anywhere in New York. That is a beauty for me. But like I said, you do not need to pursue it. You do not need to want the same things I want. But there is a space for you too, regardless of what your pursuits are. I don't care how broad they are or how limited they are. There is a space for you. And likewise, there is a space, and there needs to be a space for you, as well as people who are offering something different than what you might like. Again, you don't have to agree on whether this is good or this is bad, or whether like the style is appropriate, like the moves are too complex or this is too simple, right? You don't have to like or dislike something for us to coexist, because the community is big enough and safe enough for all of us. And so my last point, right, talking about this community of cuisines, is my final point: communication and choice. Speaking about improving our dance experiences, right, and improving our experience in the community overall. Yes, our dance is nonverbal, but we always have the option to communicate verbally. We have words, right? We talk to people all the time. We're texting all the time, right? We post here and there, right? Lots of thoughts out there into social media space, right? We have words. We can use those words. But with words And with any type of communication, just like leading and following, there's a personal responsibility attached to that as well. What we say, how we say it, when we say it, what words we're using. Okay. Speaking to dance. If we want a certain type of dance, we can ask for it, right? Somebody asks us to dance and that is not the person we want to dance with. We have the word no. No, thank you. We can go and look for the person that we want to dance with and ask them for that dance. We can tailor the dance experience by prepping our partners. Hey, I'm just a beginner, or I've never really danced this style, or by the way, I'm tired, or I'm injured, or I'm learning and I want to be challenged. That's an option too. That was been my approach when I was dancing with somebody new. I was still a beginner, but I'm like, hey, listen, I'm a beginner, or I'm just trying on two, but like I don't want to go back on one. I know you can dance on one. I want to try on two. I want to like get better at this. And so I got challenged on the dance floor. If you were looking at it from the outside in, you would have been like, wow, what a disconnected dance. Why doesn't this lead just accommodate her? Little do you know that I requested that dance. And that was the outcome of the dance. And because of my approach for learning and being present and absorbing as much information as I can and reflecting on it, that dance that looked disconnected and was disconnected actually helped me become a better connected dancer. Right? If we want to change our dance, we can communicate that. So we've already started the dance and we are reacting to things, or we're not feeling comfortable with things, or something hurts, right? And our partner doesn't read our nonverbal cues, right? Maybe we did a facial expression and cringed while our partner is doing something behind their back, right? As a follower and the leader's doing something behind, how is he going to see that? He's not going to see that, okay? So we can provide feedback. But back to the responsibility of effective communication is how we provide that feedback is important. Pointing fingers rarely gets you the result that you want, rarely gets you to the outcome that you desire, because it makes people defensive. Right? If somebody tells me, hey, you're doing something, I'm going to be like, what about you? Right? That's a natural human reaction. And if you deny that, you are either some kind of Buddhist monk with incredible emotional regulation, or you're lying to yourself. Right? Because that is natural for us. I've seen it just with friends who I'm absolutely like best friends with, like friends to death. And I've seen it with just random people on the street, random people in my dance community, random people in social gatherings or work gatherings. Okay. You point the finger, you're going to get a defensive reaction. So how can we communicate feedback? How can we get the outcome that we want? Because like, what is the purpose, right? I want to change this dance. Do I want to insult somebody, or do I want to bash their ego? We all have egos, FYI, right? Do I want to bash their ego, or try and make them feel even more self-conscious or defensive? Or do I want to change the outcome of the dance? Do I want to have a better dance? My approach has often been to turn it internal. Instead of saying, you're hurting me, I would say, I'm hurt. I wouldn't even put the onus on you hurt me. I would just say, I'm hurt. My shoulder hurts. If I need to, based on the personality that's in front of me, and I feel like I need to kind of say this in a way to make sure I get the outcome I want, I would say, I injured myself doing something and my shoulder really hurts. And back to what I said at the very beginning, I'm speaking about dances and interactions between well-intentioned people who don't have a desire to hurt me. I've found that when I communicate like that with my partner, the fact that I am giving them now an opportunity to take care of me, they do, and they do adjust accordingly. Because I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I have a problem. I have an injury. I have a discomfort, and I'm opening that door to you to accommodate it. And almost always, I really have to think hard. Actually, there's one example. It was when I first danced, which I'll bring to my next point about communication. One example only of all the 150 conservative estimate, 150,000 dances. One example where I was dancing with somebody And I said, he was squeezing. I said, oh, like it hurts. And I didn't really know how to communicate back then. This is when I first started dancing. I didn't even know the dance that well. Could have been me. Who knows who it was? But I said, oh, it hurts. And he didn't speak English. And I at least understood how to say like me duele, right? I'm in pain. And he just kind of looked at me and he still didn't understand. And so I walked away. I said, gracias, and I walked off. And that's the next part. So if communicating to change the dance doesn't work, if you try and express yourself or give some kind of feedback that is not pointing outward, but reflecting and projecting your inward feelings, okay? So you're not putting anyone on the defensive, then there's the communication to end the dance. Sorry, thank you. I don't feel like dancing anymore. That is always an option to us. Yeah, I don't know when we learned this, if we did, because I never learned it. I've never heard it. Okay. All right, we're back. Okay? I've never heard this anywhere or heard that it's being taught anywhere. Okay. You must dance the entire dance with somebody. I've never heard that. Okay. So I don't know where we got this idea, this impression that we have to dance an entire dance. But if you're dancing with someone and they're not responding to your nonverbal cues, and now you've now put that verbally in a kind and respectful way, because again, if you want something from somebody, what's that saying? You get more bees with honey than ah, I'm lost. If you know it, you can throw it into chat. But basically, you vinegar. Yeah, that's it, right? You get more bees with honey than with vinegar, right? So there's a sweetness, a kindness, a respect that is more likely to get you the outcome that you want than blaming, than attacking, than being rude or disrespectful. But let's say all of that, you tried that, doesn't work. Dance hasn't changed, and you still feel uncomfortable, and you're increasingly uncomfortable, and now you might be bringing your own tension and resentment to the dance. Well, end the dance. Okay, say no. Say sorry. I don't feel like dancing anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye. Uh, you'll have to work that out for yourself and how you communicate that. And you also have to work out the feeling that you will have inside when you're thinking about communicating that. How is this person going to react to me? And the truth is, you can't control their reaction. They could either say, I'm sorry, how come? And then you can have a conversation about what's happening in the dance that you don't like. Or they can say, you know what, F you. Or they'll give you a dirty look, or they'll call you a name. You can't control their reaction, but that communication can help you avoid any further interaction, any further discomfort, right? Any further tension in that dance. And then finally, there's the communication within our community. We all have moments of frustration and anger. That's human. That's normal. We have a wide spectrum of emotions that we go through, and it's beautiful because it is the spectrum of emotions that allows us to appreciate when we're experiencing something very different. If I never ever experienced anger and frustration, like how would I completely appreciate joy? Right? It is the idea that like my joy can be balanced against sadness, and I know the difference between the two. Right? So our range of human emotion is perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable to experience that, and it's important to experience that and to give it space to breathe. But how and where do you let it breathe? And how do you express it? And that like who you express it to, right, is kind of determine how you impact the community you belong to. Personal venting, I'm sure, I hope we all have like best friends, best close friends that we can say everything to in without any filter and just speak our mind and swear and curse and point fingers and do all of that stuff. That's a personal vent. Okay? And I hope that you all have at least one person in your life that you can just verbal diarrhea, vomit it all out to. Hopefully that person is not only a good listener, but perhaps can also say, hey, do you want to hear my thoughts on what you just said? I think you might be overreacting here. Or have you considered this other alternative? Right? Maybe. But point is, personal venting. And then there's what we put out there publicly. Nothing wrong with doing that. This live chat is me putting out my ideas and thoughts on this dance experience and how we can improve it, me putting it out publicly. Okay. And before we do that, again, nothing wrong with it. Before we do that, I think it's important for us to check our biases. I even mentioned a couple of mine. I talked about how at the beginning, I used to think that smiling was the right way to connect with somebody and that everyone should smile. And why don't people smile? You know, clearly you're not interested, you're not having fun. Now I understand after a lot of research and reading and self education and conversations with other people of different personalities and my travels and seeing people who are so different socially that I have understood that I had a bias towards that. You know, I don't expect that anymore. So check your biases. Come with solutions. It's easy to identify problems in the world. It's easy to identify problems everywhere. I don't like this. I don't like that. That's the easiest thing to do, right? Or I like this. But the why, right? Why don't you like something? And what could be done to solve it? And that solution doesn't have to be a fix. You don't have to come up with a solution to that situation, but maybe just a way of thinking about things differently, right? And if your experience or whatever frustration you're feeling is a result of a certain experience with a certain person, not necessarily the person, but something about what happened in that dance encounter, ideally try not to single people out, right? That might be the reason or the tipping of the scale to the point where you're like, I feel like saying something, but is the person the reason or is there some element of the dance? Because if you put people on blast, it does not help anybody. Okay. And I'm not talking about artists. I'm talking about just individuals. Okay. I'm not even referring to this myself as an artist. I'm talking about being a social dancer in this community. If I see somebody that is publicly blasted for a style of dancing, now, what if I don't agree with you? Right? What if what you think is too much in the dance, too complex, not necessary, and people shouldn't be doing this? What if I actually am inspired by that? Now I'm nervous to be myself. And is that what this dance is about? I think this dance is about encouraging that free expression, that authentic expression. Again, well intentioned people. Now, I need to reiterate this a couple of times because I need to be clear. I'm referring to people who are well intentioned in this dancing. Okay. So I want to try something that's more challenging and playful and creative. And, you know, I see somebody doing all these moves where they're pretzeling their arms. I want to try that. Right. So now I feel like if I ever do this, I'm going to be singled out. Again, as a social dancer, forget the artist, right? Just whoever got singled out. And I'm relating to the person that got singled out. I might feel discouraged to be me, to keep trying, to keep learning. So again, try not to single somebody out. You got something that you want to discuss, brings me to my next point. Try to be clear about it, right? What is your point? What is the problem? And try to be narrow, like narrowly focused. I mean, I'm trying to do that with this live chat. I'm not talking about your dance experience in every single dance, tango, kizomba, sensual bachata, Dominican bachata, West Coast. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about salsa dancing. Okay. And I'm narrowing it further to salsa dancing between two well-intentioned individuals because there's all types of personalities and people in this community. There are all types of personalities and people in life. Okay. In any community, right? The bigger the community, more likely you're going to see a variety in personalities, pursuits, and all that stuff. Okay. But I want to be really clear with what I'm discussing and what I'm addressing. So can you be clear and narrow with your points instead of lumping every issue together, right? Because if we do that, then we feel more helpless because we can't solve everything. We might be able to solve that one thing, but what is that one thing? So can we identify that? And then finally, to be respectful, right? To be respectful and constructive versus divisive and destructive in our language, in our words, in our tone, in our attitude, and how we communicate, because that's what this community is built on. It is about building, right? That's the emergence, that's the evolution of this dance, right? We have many different things that happen, but they're all somehow coexisting in this world, right? They have a space here. And we need to be respectful of other people's pursuits, right? Again, well intentioned. Do we think that they are coming up with a complex turn pattern or a fast, sharp move because they want to injure their partner or because they're trying something new, right? That novelty of the dance, that every moment is unique. Whether you're dancing with a brand new person, every moment within that 5-minute song is unique, but even people that you've danced with before are unique moment to moment within a dance, right? So give people that freedom to pursue what they want to pursue and know that you equally have a freedom to pursue what you want to pursue without impeding or infringing on what they want to pursue or what's available to them. Okay. Back to my cuisine analogy. You might think that spicy food is really bad, okay, because it gave you diarrhea. All right. That doesn't mean that spicy food should be eliminated from our cuisines, right, around the world. There are people who enjoy it. There are people who can, who really like it. There are people who want to try that stuff, right? You're welcome to continue eating the cuisine you want, or and engaging or attending that, like going to that restaurant all the time. But allow the other restaurants to exist and encourage that diversity, because that's how your restaurant came into existence. Because the dance as it is, even in New York, is not what it was in its origins in the 60s. Okay. It has evolved. And the reason it has evolved to where it is now, to where I like it and I like the social dancing in this community, is because it had space to evolve, because it had freedom to evolve. And likewise, there are other places and other cities and communities around the world that are doing the same. And that needs to be there as a safe space available to all those people too. You know, and again, not about performers, not about your professionals, not about even your teachers. I'm talking about your beginners, your beginner intermediates, your intermediate advanced dancers, okay? The people who are always learning something. You know, even me, I'm still learning. Even a move, sometimes I'm trying out a new move. And sometimes even a move that I know and I've tried before, when I'm doing it with somebody new or in a different song or a different space with different shoes on, with a different energy, it's a new move. There's something novel about it. And that's a trial and error moment. I'm going to try it, but I could fail. Should I be prohibited from trying it? No. I want to be able to have that freedom to try it. I want to have the freedom to fail at trying it and then given an opportunity to try again. Right? So that's our dance. That's this dance experience in salsa. There's so much we can bring to this community, right? There's so much we can change in our embrace of the dance and the roles of the dance. It does not have to be one-sided. In fact, it is not one-sided. The leading and following is taking place back and forth throughout the dance. It's collaborative in nature. It is, okay? Your input in the dance is there, whether you are intentional about it or not. So my only suggestion is try to be a little bit more intentional about that. And then your pursuit of your goals. You do not need to pursue the new. You do not need to try the challenging things. You are welcome to pursue whatever it is that gives you comfort, that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel like you're having fun. We all have different levels of enjoyment, right? You're free to pursue that. And so are other people to pursue the exact opposite. And as far as the dance community is concerned, wherever we are, like back to my dances, okay? Conservative estimate 150,000 dances. Back to my dances and my travels, okay? 81 countries. I've been to so many places, but even I know that what I know is just a fraction of what's out there. Okay? There's no way for me to sit there and say to something else that this is completely wrong or this style doesn't make sense or it shouldn't be done this way, because I am basing it off of my experience. And even that broad global experience, I still feel like there's only it's a fraction of what's out there. So if you're in a community and you're in a certain city or even a country, that's the only place you're really exploring um, the dances or the connections. Well, there's a lot more out there in this world. You don't have to explore it, but we kind of got to coexist with the fact that there are other styles out there. There are other pursuits. There are people that are going to be pushing boundaries in different ways. There are people that are going to relate to us socially in different ways. And they exist. They have a right to exist as much as you or I do. So, last point, learning. I'm going to go off of what Anton said. Learning is an active pursuit. Right? You don't learn by being present. You learn by by partaking in the activity. Okay? By choosing, by being intentional, by being present, by having the right mindset, by defining your goals, by asking questions, by communicating effectively, by giving feedback and processing feedback. Okay? These are aspects of learning. If you want more, you've got to be willing to take the steps. You've got to say, I want more, and I'm responsible for getting this more that I want. Okay? Or I want less, and I'm responsible for removing all of these other things and limiting myself to the less that I want in my life. We all have choices. We all have options. I am losing my voice. I've been talking. This is the longest live chat. Okay, we all have choices. We all have options. I would like for all of us to feel empowered to exercise those choices and exercise our agency, exercise our power to choose what it is that we want. And also understand how much impact we can have with our communication. Community up, right? Versus break it down. And yep, my voice is going, and so is my connection. So, last little point, Anton, regarding squeezing, in my humble opinion, the follower is responsible for the grip. I'm very interested in your opinion. Anton, please go back and watch the hour that you might have missed, where we talked about the different reasons why people might squeeze. As far as the follower being responsible for the grip, yes. Is she actually doing this? Sure. But what are the reasons for this? Okay. Could it be stress? Could it be pressure? Could it be a multitude of things? A fear of the unknown, wondering if they can perform well in the dance and give the lead a good experience, right? Maybe they lost their balance and we don't know. We didn't see it because they somehow recovered. But in the moment that they did, gripped, right? There are many reasons for it. It's not just, oh, they're gripping. That's bad. Yes, but what could we do differently? And actually, I want to talk about that too, really quickly. I did a lead and follow connection fundamentals workshop, and I talked about followers and how they hold their hand. The position that a follower holds the hand will determine whether a lead needs to put his thumb on your hand to help you move or not, right? These are those other elements, those technical details, those little nuances of where our understanding is. It's not about catering to somebody else, but it's about bringing our best to the table so that we can invite the best from our partners. Okay? But if we don't know what we're bringing and we're not even aware that it's actually not helping the connection, then when we are frustrated and upset by the outcome of that situation, like, all we're going to do is point the finger because we didn't bother to reflect and say, how was I following? Right? Could that have been different? And could the outcome have been different? So reflection is always key in every situation. I don't care if it's very clear that somebody did something. There's always a way to reflect, not to take the blame. Let me be clear. It's not to take the blame. It's to just feel your power. Because when we take that responsibility, there's power with that, right? So I take a lot of responsibility in my dance as a follower, and I feel very powerful as a follower. I'm not at the mercy of any type of lead. I know how to communicate verbally if I need something. I know how to insert my own stuff into the dance. I know how to diffuse tension and unnecessary extra uncontrolled force and momentum, right? These are things like you could say, oh, you're doing all of these things. You're learning these things to cater to leads who are different or who are rough. No, I am learning all these things to find the freedom to do whatever I want. Okay, so mindset is key. I'll encourage everybody again, take a look at the previous live chats, right? Again, this is number 42. Today's live chat is much longer than the others. So that's at the very least, you can feel confident that it will be less than 2.5 hours in previous live chats. But there are multiple live chats. This is number 42. Most of them go on for 60 to 90 minutes in length. They go deep diving into different topics. All of these topics that I address are things that I've encountered as a problem, students or clients of mine have encountered as a problem, things that I feel like I've received advice that I think is really useful and I'd like to share it. The whole purpose is empowerment. Okay. I am not here to shut anybody down. I want you all to be your best and to bring who you are, uniquely you, to the floor, to the table, to the dance floor, to any interaction that you're involved in. But I want you to know what power you have, and part of that starts with a responsibility. Like, am I responsible for anything? If I am, how do I develop those skills to bring my best? How do I not just focus on the execution of the things that I want to do, but also how do I recover when things don't go well? What is my mindset? How do I respond to stress? How does my body respond to these things? What am I bringing? What am I expecting from other people? Is it fair to expect this? Does everyone need to smile with me? Right? Does everyone need to have the same energy and buoyancy in their spirit for them to be interested in the interaction with me, right? And how am I communicating anything that I'm communicating? If there's something was misread or misinterpreted, could I communicate that better? Like my life is always internally reflective. Yes, I can point to other people. That's easy. But looking inside, like looking at myself and saying, what did you bring to the table? What could you improve? And the lesson, there's always a lesson to be learned. And that lesson could be never want to do this again. And that's a good lesson. It's good to learn that too. Okay. But we got to look at every interaction, every experience in life, every moment as with a mindset of curiosity. What can we get out of this? Like, what is there to learn? What is there to discover? Not just about the moment or the other person, but also about ourselves, right? And what lesson can I take away? Where can I develop? Where can I grow? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What do I want none of? And then go out there, communicate that, right? Communicating, FYI, verbally communicating your desires and your wants is not easy, right? I say what I say, and forgive me if you think I'm projecting. It's not my intention to project my approach and my confidence on anybody else. I have been doing it for a really long time, and the origins of my confidence aren't a great story. Okay. So I don't wish that on anybody else, but I am where I am. And I've been working on it over the years, right? To be able to speak my mind and to do it in a way that's not belittling anybody else or attacking anybody else, right? So if you feel that struggle, well, here's another move. Here's another area that could be improved upon, right? Here's another area where you can build your power by increasing your knowledge and your skill. So I hope you all look at today's live chat. I thank you for staying. I hope you feel more empowered and feel like you have more agency in your dance, in your experience with a partner on the dance floor, as well as within your community, to influence what you want, but to also make choices if those things exist and you don't want them. Okay. And again, I will state it clearly one last time. Today's live chat has been about salsa dancing, social dancing, from a social dancer's perspective, and between well-intentioned individuals. I'm not referring to people who have ulterior motives or other things that they're dealing with that they're bringing. Well-intentioned individuals. Okay. Anton said everything is a choice if you have control over your own thoughts and dance and life. So yeah, as long as there is a willingness. Yep. Absolutely. So, with that, if you'd like to share feedback on today's live chat, you can leave a comment in the comments right now or in the replay. Or I always prefer the feedback form because you can be more detailed and I'd love to know what you took away today. So, magnagopal.com/feedback. That is a link to the live chat feedback form, and you can share whatever you want. If there's anything you want me to address in future live chats, whether you want me to credit your name or anonymously, you can put that in there too. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here today. Thank you for all the things that you have shared with me. Today's topic is a result of many of the things that were shared with me. That's why we're discussing it again. And also, in discussing it again, I realized, well, you know what? I've done this topic before. Let me review what I said. I have other things to add. There's always more to add. There's always something to learn. And as we learn and as we grow, why not share and contribute and build our community up? But with that, thank you for being here. 2.5 hours. That is a record. Live chat 42. Next live chat will be in October. These live chats, typically, I try to do them the first Wednesday or Thursday, first week of the month. So we'll see what live chat 43's topic is going to be. If you have a suggestion, by all means, shoot me a message, Instagram, Facebook, or send me an email from my website, magnagopal.com. And again, I would really appreciate the feedback form. If you have time to share that, that would be big heart. Have a lovely day, and we will see each other soon somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Cecile.